Can we be so real for a second? People on Twitter claiming they feel mismarketed about Mayhem because of the single Abracadabra versus what the album is. What are you talking about? I think Mayhem is Lady Gaga at her finest. She has perfected this very specific type of sound that developed in the 80s with Madonna and so many other pop stars and icons. She then really revolutionary brought it back to mainstream pop in 2008, 2009. And we all forget that wasn't already happening. She started that wave. Now everything is reminiscent of the 80s. Everything. But she's the one that started that. That's why she said those are my nachos. When it's like you're reheating your nachos. And her evolution of music, her discography is beautiful because she is truly an artist that is interested in telling stories through music in a completely unedited way, unfiltered way. She grew up in the club scene, bus, club, no sleep, another club, no sleep, bus. Like that is who she is in her core. And she like burst onto the scene by doing these characters, and then Fame Monster, Born This Way. So then Born This Way took off in a way that launched her into a commercial level that was like Taylor Swift at the time. And she then chose to follow it up with Artpop. I know that two fans, us little monsters, Artpop is like very highly regarded. It didn't land well. It didn't sell well. And it wasn't embraced. It, in hindsight, I think has a really lovely reputation and memory, and so many good songs. But at the time, it was so against the grain. It could not have been less of what people were expecting or wanted. It literally would have made more sense for her to do the Tony Bennett collab immediately after Born This Way. Like that is such a departure from like who we knew Lady Gaga as, like that jazz inspired show tune route. That would have been less of an extreme than Artpop was. So then Artpop exists, and then she goes away. And then she comes back with Joanne. Now, let's not forget how Joanne started with the single Perfect Illusion, which if I had to pick one song off the album Joanne that does not represent the album Joanne, I would pick Perfect Illusion. But I think she was trying to show this idea of what we knew her as, or like respected her as, which was like this pop synth artist. Joanne is actually one of my favorite Gaga albums, if not my favorite. It is stunning. I mean, it is so dynamic. It has incredible music that is not just like the melodies and the style and the artistry behind the instrumentation, but also the lyrics. I think Million Reasons, to me, by far her best song. Oh my God, like I get shivers. Like I don't get that affected by music and stuff, but like I do cry when I hear Million Reasons, and I watch her play at the Super Bowl, that clip, all the time. So she does Joanne, and then it's kind of rejected by fans in an odd way, and the public didn't really know what to make of it. And then something that I think was very interesting is afterwards, Gaga was very public about her journey with that album, where she felt like she was trying to force herself to connect with a part of her life that wasn't meant to be forcibly connected with. And she did that very publicly. I think a lot of us deal with things but don't process it in a public, period. Very few of us are superstars. If you are a pop superstar that publishes music and watching this, DM me. I'd love to chat. That's very cool. So she does Joanne. Then she goes away. And wouldn't you know it, the few weeks after the pandemic hits, she's supposed to release Chromatica. She delays it until June of 2020, but releases Rain on Me. I don't want to spend too much time on Chromatica because personally it is not an album that I love, and I know most people love it. It's just not the kind of music I listen to. I do not listen to this like electronica synth music all the time. Like, it is just not something on repeat. Something that made me fall in love with Chromatica was instances where she would play the songs acoustically on piano or on guitar, and you can hear the lyrics. I'm like, oh my God, this is masterful. I'm like, this is stunning work. And I love dancing to the songs. I went to a drag show in Brooklyn where they played the album front to back, and every song was like performed differently by a different queen. And it was like a great night. And the movie of the Chromatica ball, like, amazing. It's just not the kind of music I like. Then she comes to Mayhem. Something I think is fascinating about Mayhem is how, if you look at it at a high level view, it was actually perfectly timed to coincide with the Joker film release and then awards season. And I think in a perfect world where you're coming off of the assumption that Joker 2 would be a awards contender because the first one was, that is like such a beautiful PR package and marketing package. And she's already going to be on red carpet. They were able to then spin it. And I'm sure when they came up with the idea years ago, they were like, and then if it all goes south, then you can at least have something else going on in life that is like very successful and you're very happy about, and you can promote and not talk about Joker. And the fact that Joker 2 has just like completely disappeared out of our consciousness is insane. In like I don't know how that happens. Like, it's so funny that I haven't seen a single Joker 2 joke, meme, reference at all in the past week with the release of Mayhem, when that was such a huge part of her life and her career, theoretically, until it all just like kind of fizzled. I thought she was fantastic in the movie. It was a bad movie. I'm glad we all just moved on. But she introduces the Mayhem era with Disease. Technically, Die With a Smile. So here's the thing. That is, Die With a Smile is the last track on the album. Disease is the first track on the album. I love both of those songs. I especially love, you guessed it, Die With a Smile. I think Die With a Smile is beautiful. So good. So good. It tells a story. It's operatic in its length. Their voices blend beautifully. I love how organic it feels. It feels just like this authentic kind of roots that you would expect from someone like Gaga and Bruno collaborating, and it feels stripped down in a way where it's actually like huge. It ties in great with the Joker movie because it was Smile, and then the death themes and such can make sense with Mayhem. Then Disease is like a Chromatica cut track in a way. I think it's stronger than a lot of the songs on Chromatica. Personally, that's my opinion. So you have Disease, and then she follows it up with Abracadabra. And the history books will remember Abracadabra. I mean, it is the miracle of a song where it calls back and is self-referential to her previous work, but it is not just a grab bag. It's not just her like stealing your attention, her ripping herself off for your entertainment and buy-in. It is still an evolution of her. It's still very original, but it's also an homage. And that is really hard to pull off. And a lot of artists do it unsuccessfully. And you're like, you're just doing this because it sounds like something that we liked 15 years ago, and we haven't liked what you did recently. So that brings us back 10 minutes later to this idea at the beginning that the rest of the album doesn't fit in with this identity that Disease and Abracadabra laid out. I completely disagree with that. I actually don't understand that take. I think people have been really caught up in this trend of electronica, where Brat, which was like Brat Summer, then Brat Fall, like she's still releasing music. Charlie is an icon, and that music is great. And I think is very reminiscent of so many different kinds of genres that we have become really ingrained with. And that sound is similar to what Gaga was doing on Abracadabra and Disease. But there's so much more to Abracadabra and Disease, and I hope people go back and listen to what those songs like are in terms of their production and content and see that it is different. I can only speak for myself, but when I started listening to the album on Thursday night, Friday morning, I was like immediately smitten with it. There was no hesitation in my love for it. And as someone that has had the opposite experience with music, I'm also a Swiftie, and I'll never forget listening to Midnights for the first time and just being like, what the fuck is this? And I think every track on Mayhem is solid. The first day when I was just listening to it, the middle, like once you hit Killa, and then before you get to the Beast, that midsection seemed really like all one song to me, or it seemed all like much of the same. And now as I've listened to it multiple times and you see like what songs people are identifying with, the more you're like, no, there actually is a ton of variation. There's so much meaning in each song that is different. There's so much sonic difference in terms of paying homage to her original stuff while having a unifying theme throughout the album and a unique sound for each track. I think we lose the plot a little bit when trying to hold her up to this standard of like what you came into your mind because of Abracadabra. There's also a very specific psychological thing that is happening where the album decreases in tempo that then starts you with Disease, which is like, in the music video, there's like trash and newspaper flying around everywhere. Like she's in a tornado, and then Die With a Smile is like just, her and Bruno Mars and a guitar. So it's a journey. And I don't think people, for some reason, were ready for that, when in reality, all of these songs individually are like just really great Lady Gaga songs. I don't know. I wanted this. This isn't meant to be like an in-depth analysis of Mayhem. Maybe I'll do that because I do love the album so much, and my hopes were high. But with music these days and with albums as a whole, it's like you can feel like the artists get greedy. You feel like it never really clicks. But to me, Mayhem like clicks. It really fell into place. So I'm excited to continue digesting it and analyzing it, both like as a fan, but also as someone that like thinks about storytelling, thinks about artistry, thinks about the craft that went into it. So I don't know. That was my quick little journey into Lady Gaga's sonic history, I guess is the way that you could call it. I would love to know your thoughts on Mayhem. Did it live up to the expectation that you had built in your head? Has it grown in favor since or lessened? I know it's only been 3 days, but for those of us that have done nothing but listen to Mayhem for 3 days, you will have an opinion. And let me know what your favorite Gaga album is, or your top 3 songs. My top 3 songs before Mayhem would have been Million Reasons, Gypsy, and Judas, and then Always Remember Us This Way, which I think is the best song off of A Star Is Born. So let me know. Love Lady Gaga. How exciting to be in March of 2025 and talking about a fantastic new Lady Gaga album. All right. I hope you made it this far. Thank you for watching. I will see you whenever I see you. If you can comment, like, and subscribe, dear God, that would be helpful. I'm very close to 100 subscribers. Okay,